Arbor Week is next week, and so we are planting a fruit tree today in celebration of Arbor Week. And we have chosen a Red Haven dwarf peach tree to fill in our area to plant and make a nice display in our fruit orchard. And of course, we want to remind you to make sure that you plant the tree the proper height. You want it level with the soil line that it was grown. And we're just going to fill back in with some of our soil that we've dug out. And notice that we've made the planting hole quite a bit bigger. Now, Arbor Week is really a time for different school groups or youth activities or garden clubs to plant trees to help beautify their areas and really to help improve the environment. In Oklahoma, Arbor Day was first designated in 1957, and it was a Friday in February. But in 1981, we decided that we really needed a week, and so Governor Nye decided to come up with Arbor Week. So now we have a full week, and we're actually only one of 7 states that celebrates an entire week designated to planting trees and improving the environment. Well, you know, we talk a lot about planting trees and Oklahoma gardening, but sometimes we forget about their importances. And I want to take just a few minutes to remind you just how valuable trees are and what benefits they have. Whether it's a fruit tree or an ornamental tree, shade tree, or even shrubs, once you plant them, they're going to stretch up to the sun and they're going to provide shelter, shade, comfort, joy, beauty. They're going to help diminish smog. They're going to help in noise pollution. They provide oxygen for us to breathe, and they help moderate temperatures. And there's really not many things that you can plant that has that kind of a return on its investment. And a lot of times we forget about those things and we take the trees for granted. But again, it's really a great thing that you can do, especially now that the 90s are becoming such an environmental awareness decade. But again, we've planted our tree the same level, and notice that, again, we're just using the regular backfill, and we'll want to work that in a little bit, tap it down, and at this point it's probably a good idea to put a little bit of water in there to get some of those air bubbles out. And you know, planting trees is just not an important thing in the United States. The Europeans have a charming custom as well, where they plant trees in honor of the birth of a baby. And their custom is they plant an apple tree for a baby boy and a pear tree for a baby girl. So you can see there's many opportunities and things that we can do to plant trees and shrubs. Now, one thing that we considered when we planted this tree is our site location as well as a proper plant. And I want to take this time to remind you that if you have troubles in deciding what kind of tree to plant, remember that we have lots of information at your county extension office that will help you in identifying the proper trees, shrubs, or even fruit trees that you can plant. But when we planted this, when we chose one that will not compete with our garden behind us here, if we would have gotten a tree too big, the root system would have grown into the garden and it could have even shaded out some of our plant material. So that's why we've chosen a dwarf tree, and we'll actually be able to prune it and keep it to a moderate size. The other thing that I want to remind you as well is when you're selecting your plant material, in addition to making sure you buy things that are adapted for your area, you want to be sure, again, and not plant it too close to your home. A lot of times we get smaller trees and shrubs and we put them too close to the house, and before you know it, they've grown into the foundation and up against the wall or blocked off the windows. So you need to plant it as if it was mature and fully grown. The other thing that we run into problems is planting trees that will grow up into power lines, or we may not know where our utilities are. And the Public Service Company of Oklahoma has a toll-free number that you can call, and I'd like to give you that number. It's 1-800-522-6543. And you can call that number and they have a representative that can help you identify where the utilities are in your area. And that way you don't avoid any construction damage or any problems in the future, as well as they also have listing of trees that can be planted in your area that maybe are smaller trees that won't compete with those power lines. So between the forestry people at PSO and your county extension office, you should be able to get a wealth of information. Now back to planting our fruit tree here. Again, we'll continue to fill up the hole and we'll pack that down, and once we get all of the soil in, we'll probably make a little ridge here to help hold in water to get it established. We don't want to put any fertilizer in. We probably won't even fertilize it until the middle of the summer or next spring, depending on how the growth goes. But an interesting thing that I want to show you when you buy especially a peach tree or a nectarine is you need to prune it right off the bat and get it started where it will make those scaffold branches that we've talked about before. So here we've purchased a tree that cost about $15, and this really concerns a lot of people, but we are going to cut off about $8 worth of that tree to help get it established. And what we want are some good strong branches here at the bottom, and we want to make an open center. And to do that, we'll come down and we'll look at these branches, and we've got one that has a little bit of damage on it. So we're going to prune below that and make an open center. And we're just going to make a cut. And of course we've got it staked here. But you can see we cut out just about half of that tree. Now we're going to leave the rest of these to help protect it and let our foliage come out. But we've got it about knee level, which is where we want to start with that open cut. And we'll continue to design it and prune it as time goes on. But that's really a crucial step, and people have a tendency to not want to do that. But now is a time to plant your trees. It's a time to prune them. And I'd like to encourage you to get involved and plant a tree in your landscape or even in your neighborhood or even your city in honor and celebration of Arbor Week.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.